All right, so this is a continuation of the 2.3 factoring, part one. So there's going to be a lot of factoring. That's what most of this is going to focus on, this unit. So before we just got done, we were factoring by grouping. And so now what we're going to do is we have these trinomials, and I've talked about this in previous videos that this was going to happen because we used to FOIL. Remember foiling? It wasn't all that long ago, a couple of videos ago, we were foiling. Well, now we're going to undo that. So factoring a trinomial means we're going to transform it into the product of two or more factors. Mostly we'll have two for right now. Basically, we're going to undo the FOIL. So when factoring this trinomial, ax squared plus bx plus c, where the leading coefficient's 1. So right now, all these, you'll notice, are all x squared at the front. Eventually, they won't be, and those are a little bit more challenging, and we'll tackle those in our next section. So right now, let's just focus on these. So we're looking, the way you want to do this is kind of like a little, I try to make it like a game, okay? And so we're looking for two numbers that will multiply to give you that third value. It's your C value right there. But at the same time, those two numbers have to add up to the B value in the middle. So let's look at an example of this. So right here we have x squared plus 8x plus 15. So sometimes people call this the A&M method. So add to 8 and multiply to give you 15. That kind of helps to kind of keep everything straight, right? And so first things first, you want to determine your signs. So you're looking for two numbers that will multiply to give you 15, but they have to add to positive 8. So they're both positive. So that means the two numbers I'm looking for are both positive also, okay? So I'm looking for two numbers. When I multiply those two numbers, they will be 15. And if I add them, they will add up to 8. And so a lot of times I'll call these unknown letters, I'll call them A and B. Now don't get confused. It's not referring to the A and B up here, okay? This is a new A and B that I'm speaking of. So just two numbers, we'll call them A and B, that we're looking for, need to satisfy the conditions right here. Multiply to give me 15, add up to 8. Well, let's see, 1 times 15, but that adds up to 16, so that won't work. Okay, let's see, how about 3 and 5? Yep, that's it. 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 plus 5 is 8. And so they're both positive, and so what happens is we're undoing that FOIL process, so we're going to break it up into x plus 5, x plus 3. And if I wanted to, I could have wrote x plus 3 first, and then x plus 5. It doesn't make a difference in which order you write those in, okay? And so you can see that if you were to FOIL it together, x times x, that gives you the x squared. The outer and the inner, that's why you're looking for what adds to give you that middle value, because the outer and inner add up to 8. See, 3x and 5x right there. 3x and 5x, that adds up to 8x. And then the last two multiply together to give you that 15. Okay? So we're undoing the FOIL process. Okay, so I've got, I think, about 8 examples for us to do, but you're going to need a lot more than just 8. It's going to take practice on your own, but let's go ahead and tackle a couple of these. Okay, so looking at this first one right here, so I like to do the A and M. I like to put A and M right there to remind myself I'm trying to figure out what adds to 13 but multiply to give me 36. It's easier to really start on the M part though, and so just list all the numbers that multiply to give you 36. And you could even, and at this point, you know, use a calculator if you like. I don't, you know, that doesn't bother me at all. So let's see, 1 times 36. Let's see, the problem is that will it add to give me 37. Let's see, 2 divides into 36 and you would get an 18. So that means that 2 times 18 is 36. So that's what I would do if I were you. If you wanted to grab a calculator and start dividing 36 by 2, 3, 4, 5. And eventually you're going to come up with the pair of numbers that multiply to give you 36 but add to 13. Okay. 2 and 18 add up to 20, so that's not going to work. And then let's see, 3 divides into 36, let's see, I think 12 times. Let's see, that adds to give me 15, so that's not going to work. Let's see, 4 divides into 36 9 times. Bingo, bingo. 9 times 4 is 36, and 9 plus 4 is 13. So what I'm going to do is, remember, I'm going to break it apart into two binomials, right? Okay. And so to get the x squared, that's just x times x, right? Now, how do I get the 36? Well, that's going to be 4 times 9. So I'm going to put plus 4 and then plus 9, and that is my answer. And then the inner part, the inner and outer part, you'll see that that would add up to that 13x in the middle right there. But yeah, that's my answer right there. I want to leave it like that. And if I would have put the plus 9 and then the plus 4, that would make no difference. That would be fine. It'd be 100% correct. Okay, let's look at my next example right here. So I want to see what adds to give me -8. Okay, that's interesting. And multiplies to give me positive 15. This one's actually very similar to the example up above, except that it adds to give me -8 instead of positive 8. So what's going to happen in this particular example is that what multiplies to give me 15, they're both going to have to be negative numbers, because if you multiply a negative by a negative, it is positive. And then the thing is, they have to add up to a negative. So that's why they're both going to have to be negative. So let's see, -1 and -15. Nope, that would add to -16, right? -3 and -5. Bingo again. So those would multiply. Negative times a negative is positive 15, and they add up to that -8. So once again, I'll make my parentheses here, and then let's see, to get t squared, that would just be a t and a t, right? T times t is t squared. Then to get that 15, it's going to be a -3 and a -5. And then if you wanted to check it a step further, once again, you can do the inner and outer, and you would see, oh, that would multiply to give me -8t. If you do the inner and outer and then add that together, that's a -8t right there. All right, let's try a couple more. And like I said, you know, this video, I can only do so many examples, and then you really have to kind of do it yourself. And the homework, I don't think is super long, but what you might want to do is, if you're struggling, make sure you do similar example over and over again until you really get this down. Factoring is going to be something that you're going to see in every single unit of college algebra. So this is probably one of the most important lessons we're going to have to prepare us for college algebra. Okay, on number 5, A and M again, right? Add, multiply. Now, what's interesting about this is it multiplies to give me -33, -33. So the only way I can get a negative is by doing a positive and a negative number, right? So with my two numbers, one will be positive, one will be negative. Now, they add up to a negative value. So that means that the negative number's got to be the larger number, so that when I add them together, it's going to take the sign of the negative number. Okay? So the negative number is going to have to be larger. So let's see, -33 and +1. But that adds up to -32. Let's see, 2 does not divide into -33. You can try, but 2 will not divide into 33 evenly. But 3 will. So let's see, -3 will divide into it, and you'd get an 11, right? So -3 times 11 is -33, right? -3 times 11 is -33. And if I add those together, you got a little tug of war going on. One's negative and one's positive. But those, oops, you know what? I got my signs wrong there. That would add up to a +8, so that wouldn't work. So it needs to be +3, -11. There we go. And I'll just say I meant to do that even though I didn't. But, all right. So let's go ahead and fill this in. All right, so let's see. I'm going to have an x here and an x here. X times x is x squared. And then let's see, I'm going to have a +3 and I'm going to have a -11. And there we go. That's my answer right there. If you were to FOIL this together, you'd go right back to what we have up above. And once again, it's okay if you would have put the -11 first and then the +3. That's okay. The main thing is that the minus is with the 11 and the plus is with the 3. Okay. Other than that, you can switch the order of the factors. All right, let's look at our next one. So let's see, we want to figure out what adds to give me 3, but multiply to give me a minus 54 or a negative 54, right? Now this time, they add up to a positive. So that means, yes, I am dealing with a positive and negative again because they multiply to give me a negative. But this time, the larger number will be positive so that we take on their sign right here. So let's see. Obviously, 54 and -1 are definitely not going to work. Let's see. Let's divide 2 into 54. So we would get 27 and -2, but that's pretty obvious. That's not going to work either. Let's see. We could can we divide 3 into it? I think so, but once again, that's not going to work. Let's see. 4 doesn't divide into it. 5 doesn't divide into it. Let's see. I think 6 does. 6 will go into 54 9 times. So I'm looking at 6 and 9. Now, I have to make the smaller number negative and the larger number positive because I need it to add up to a positive number. And that is actually the numbers I'm looking for. -6 times 9 is -54. And then if I add those together, that will add up to a positive 3 in the middle. So let's go ahead and put our parentheses. So I'll have a p here and a p there to give me that p squared. And then to get the minus 54, I'm going to put a -6 here and a +9 here. And then once again, if you want to double check, you can see that the inner and outer, if you do that and add those together, you would end up with the positive 3p right there. So that's how you can always check yourself. All right, I think I just have 2 left. And then my next video, we're going to get into some more factoring. So this is just going to be a continuation in a moment. So right here, let's see, A and M. So add to -4, multiply to give me a positive 3. Okay, we saw one kind of like this earlier where it multiplied to give me a positive, but added to give me a negative. So that means they're both going to be negative in this case. And to be honest, this is probably one of the easier ones we've done because I really only have one option, -1 and -3. So -1 times -3 is positive 3. And then those also, if you add those two numbers together, would add up to a -4 or -4t right there. So we'll go ahead and put our parentheses, and they're using t this time. And then put the minus. It doesn't matter which one goes first. I'll put -1 and then I'll put -3. Doesn't really make a difference. And there we go. Okay, if you want a really big challenge, you can go ahead and pause the video and try to do number 27 if you'd like on your own. Okay, now let's go ahead and check it out, and you'll see why this is a challenge. Okay, so let's see. Add to -3, multiply to give me positive 7. Well, let's see, a positive, but it adds to a negative, so my numbers must both be negative. All right, I'm getting a little confused because the only one I can think of is -1 and -7. See, that multiplies to give me 7, but that definitely does not add up to -3. All right, well, this one is actually not going to be factorable. And so on your homework, you'll have an option that will say prime. We say it's prime. We can't break it up into factors, okay? You won't, I'm not going to give you a lot of examples like that. Most of them will work for you, okay? But every once in a while, we might throw something like this at you. Now, later on, when we get to college algebra, there's actually a remedy for this issue when it comes to solving these type of equations. And so there is going to be an answer for how to do this later on. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and list it as prime.